since it's Autism Acceptance Month, why is it suddenly being changed? Beforehand, people talked about Autism Awareness, now it's Autism Acceptance Month. People used to say that certain people had autism spectrum disorder. Now people get offended by the word disorder, so it's changed to condition. And now we can't call a different form of autism Asperger's because of who it was named after, because it's considered like a really bad negative thing, even though previously for many decades it wasn't a problem. And I hate how there was a bad stigma with anything from like autism to mental health. There was a bad stigma and people used to judge people in a negative way. And now there's been like a big U-turn in the sense that people now see it as like a fashionable statement, a fashionable term. Everyone wants to label themselves as having some sort of neurodiverse condition. Excuse me, everyone is a little bit autistic, you see? Just like we shouldn't use labels and different terminologies, but not everyone is entirely straight, not everyone is entirely a male or female. Everyone has masculine and feminine energies, and everyone is a little bit autistic, although on the autistic spectrum of some degree, and it's okay to say that. I don't want to be rude or to be blunt, but that's like saying everyone has a bit of Down syndrome or everyone is a little bit diabetic. I'm just using that as an example. Yeah, some people may have certain traits and characteristics, but it doesn't mean that everyone is an autistic individual. I mean, a lot of people had to go through several loopholes to get diagnosis. Some people had to seek a second diagnosis, and people have struggled throughout their lives. People have struggled with chronic related illnesses and conditions that will never go away. That's part of autism, and it affects the way you live, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you operate. And also people on the spectrum tend to have bad coordination as well, and they went to like child development centres as a kid growing up, and they had their coordination tested, they had IQ tested, they went through various loopholes to get a diagnosis, and they've been waiting for many years. And also people that are genuinely autistic have struggled throughout their whole lives when it comes to everyday living, when it comes to employment, when it comes to their health, when it comes to their relationships. And yes, it doesn't, one category doesn't fit all kind of thing. Everyone's different, everyone's unique. Men and women can be affected differently, and for women, you know, we tend to get overlooked compared to men when it comes to the diagnosis criteria. And also many years ago there was a stigma and there was a typical stereotype that if you were a bit quirky, if you were someone that was highly educated, you had a high IQ, you were very brainy but socially awkward, then you were automatically assumed to just be a bit Aspergic, really. But these days we went from spreading awareness and informing people and being educational and trying to be open about these things and learn more about these things. And we also have neurotypical people telling autistic people what it's like to have autism when they don't live with it in their everyday life. And they have no clue really. They may have read a few books, they may have a degree to their name, but it doesn't mean that they know entirely what the condition's about. And because you don't look autistic, or because you don't look like you have a disability, just like people with Down syndrome, for example, or because, as another example, because some people are physically or mentally disabled, it can be more pronounced in certain individuals. But because some people may seemingly look fine and look okay, it doesn't mean that they're okay. You don't know what they're struggling with internally. So people judge and they try to tar everyone with the same brush, and it's just not the case. We're all different and we're all unique. And I don't think it's fair that these days, just because it's suddenly fashionable, everyone wants to label themselves as suddenly being ADHD or autistic, or they see it as a fashionable statement, because it's not something that is something that's easy to live with. There's one thing being understanding and accepting of other people that have the condition, but we shouldn't exploit it and make it become like a fashionable accessory either, because then it's not taken seriously, and whether people's intentions are good or bad, it's actually making a mockery of what autism and people with genuine autism that suffer with it, what it's really about. It's just like when people suffer from chronic illnesses like chronic pain or chronic fatigue. Just because someone may look fine, you don't know internally just how bad they feel. They may be going through excruciating pain, aches and pains, or someone that is tired. They may feel lethargic constantly, and just because they look okay doesn't mean that they are okay either. Yeah, but I'm just telling you that everyone is a little bit on the spectrum. We're all non-binary beings. We're all, neurodiverse beings. We are trans-species, non-binary, mystical, magical folk. It's people like you that give autism a bad name. It's a serious condition, and just because people can't diagnose people, or they don't know for a fact if it was caused by certain jabs or environmental factors, or they can't tell for certain, or they don't have the knowledge whether or not people's brains are wired differently. We can't assume these things that everyone's a little bit on the spectrum. Just like we can't assume that everyone that is skinny looking is supposedly healthier than people that are bigger looking, because there are people that are bigger built and they may be healthier compared to people that are skinny. There are people that are skinny that have they have cancer or type 2 or even type 1 diabetes. So we can't judge people or assume that everyone is the same. We can assume that everyone is all the same, unless of course if you're against the LGBT, if you don't think that everyone is a little bit on the spectrum, if you don't think everyone's a little bit non-binary, if you're not for illegal immigration, then of course you're obviously a racist, you're far right, you are Nazis. What are you on about? I'm just making a point. I'm not going to go into politics, because when it comes to politics, I'm all for legal immigration. I'm against Sharia law. I'm not far right or far left. I acknowledge and accept the fact that all parties are equally bad and corrupt, and there's something far bigger that's going on no matter what you support. But that's another thing I detest as well, is that everyone that has a septum piercing, someone that is non-binary or wear rainbow colours or alternative, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're all woke. Yeah, it does actually. And obviously you can't be autistic and you can't be someone that isn't woke. This is why I can't take any national autistic society or people seriously anymore, and I just shut my mouth and go about my day. Whatever.